Majority Report with Sam Seder.
The destiny of America is always safer in the hands of the people than in the conference rooms of any elite.
Sam Seder.
They are unanimous in their hate for me, and I welcome their hatred.
We must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
Ever get the feeling you've been cheated?
It is Tuesday, September 24th, 2024. My name is Sam Seder. This is the 5-time award-winning Majority Report. We are broadcasting live steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. On the program today, Aaron Kleinman, Director of Research for the States Project at Future Now, to give us a sense of what's going on in the States. Also on the program today, Israel kills nearly 500 in a Lebanon strike, 90 of whom women and children. This as the U.S. adds to the 40,000 troops already in the region. New polls, Harris leads in Michigan and Wisconsin. Trump and the National Republican Party fail in their bid to change Nebraska voting to get all the Nebraskan electoral votes.
Lindsey Graham, Beta.
Meanwhile, Harris endorses filibuster reform for abortion, though she's quiet on her past pledge for Dreamers. 5 weeks from the election, Republicans now in an open sprint, running away from Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson and his bid for North Carolina's governor. New York Republican congressman apparently put his fiance's kid and the woman he was cheating on his fiance with on the payroll in the same congressional district office.
You know what they say, keep your mistress's family close, your family close. No, that's not the phrase.
You'll work on that. Missouri Supreme Court and governor reject bid to stay the execution of Marcellus Williams. The DOJ sues Visa for antitrust violation. California AG sues Exxon over its pushing the myth that plastic is easily recyclable. Shida Tlaib and others rally for UNRWA funding restoration in the House. And the world's ocean, according to a latest report, is on the brink of becoming too acidic to sustain marine life. All this and more on today's Majority Report. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks so much for joining us. It is, Emma?
Newsday Tuesday.
I should say right up front, I am feeling a little bit, I'm not feeling 100% because yesterday I got both the flu and the COVID shot. And I thought like, oh, I've had the COVID shot before, barely felt it. I've had flu shots before, barely felt it, or at least that's what I remembered. And when I've got them together, I am feeling it. However, this is a good opportunity to remind you that you can get a free COVID tests are going to be available very shortly, like literally any day now. If you go to, what is it that you go to?
I was just on it. Here we go.
I was on it too, but it's not it's covidtests.org. And excuse me, covidtest.gov. covidtest.gov. You can get some free tests. Also, you can check and see if your COVID test expiration dates have been extended. At least in about 26 states, there is wastewater evidence that COVID is having a bit of a surge. I know personally multiple people who have gotten it in the past couple of weeks. So go do yourself a favor, get the
I just
vaccination.
realized this is when I had it last year, pretty much precisely.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I don't know if there's, I don't have a sense of if there's a seasonal surge at different, but people start going back inside a little bit more this time. I don't know. I mean,
School starts.
School.
Yeah.
school,
Yeah.
I guess, is a big part of it.
Yeah. Well, are you feeling like you're levitating? You're especially magnetic right now?
Things feel more digital to me.
Yeah. You can
In a
move
weird
things with
way.
your mind, or at least,
Yeah.
was I not supposed to reveal that on air?
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, if there's
wanna-
any
I don't wanna
audio
talk about
problems,
that.
it's because Sam is active right now.
Yeah.
That's right. If you hear buzzing, that's what's going on there. It's the electrical impulses are running through my body. But go out, get yourself a flu shot, get yourself a COVID shot. I'm feeling it, but it's not. I'll make it. I'll make it through the show. And then I'll take a nap.
That's what it means to be a mighty man of valor.
Thank you. It's nice to be recognized. Kamala Harris was on Wisconsin Public Radio today. Incidentally, we should say Harris is, like I say, is leading in Michigan with by a small lead, a greater lead in Wisconsin, according to the latest polls. Of course, this comes on the heels of the polls yesterday, New York Times, showing that she is trailing in the Sun Belt states. However, this came up the last time there was a big New York Times poll. The polling seems to think that Democratic turnout is going to be higher in the Rust Belt states than in the Sun Belt states, which is, I mean, maybe a valid assumption, maybe not. Arizona does have abortion on the ballot, so it's sort of
Nevada.
hard to imagine, but that's, take it for what it's worth. I mean, the polls, none of them.
The Times has been skewing more favorably to the Republicans now for 2 polls in a row, and that they're an A+ poll, but they also had a more rosy picture about the midterms as well. So we'll see if that pattern holds in terms of some of the pollsters being a little bit more tilted towards Republicans like they were in 2022.
Yeah. I mean, take it for a grain of salt. Nevertheless, Harris on Wisconsin Public Radio today said that she supports ending the 60 vote threshold to advance legislation in the Senate. That's the filibuster in the instance of abortion law. And this is relevant for 2 reasons. One, if the Democrats manage to maintain a 50-50 split with a Democratic vice president being the tiebreaker, 2 of the people who are against this, at least one of them, Joe Manchin, and maybe Kristen Sinema, I mean, it's hard to tell, in terms of suspending the filibuster rule, are gone. And there's no indication of the people that would come in to replace them. Let's say there's a pickup, or there's no loss of Democratic Senate races. Tester's looking a little bit weak, but we'll see. But Allred, I think, who potentially could win. It's a potential win in Florida as well. Both those candidates have voiced support. In Nebraska, the independent candidate, I'm not sure. Yeah, Olson, where he is on abortion rights, but
it may not be Olson. I'm sorry if I got that name wrong. Sorry about that.
Nevertheless,
Dan Osborne, not Olson.
Osborne, yeah.
Yeah.
And we'll check on that. But this is a big deal. What's also interesting is that she hasn't been as explicit on just about any other position outside of this, in terms of like some of the big issues like Dreamers. She's been quiet on, to the extent that she's backed off some of her positions from 2020. This is one where she hasn't. Obviously, it has a lot of electoral salience, and we'll see. However, it could be too little too late and completely moot because Donald Trump has a message for American women. Remember, Donald Trump, how many was it? Was it 17 that he was accused of molesting?
Or sexually assaulting or misconduct. Yeah, I mean, you
was
may
it
be
17 or was it more? But let's also be clear. He was found in a civil court. The finding of defamation against him from E. Jean Carroll, the judge also found that wasn't a criminal standard, not beyond a reasonable doubt, but certainly the preponderance of the evidence was that Donald Trump had raped E. Jean Carroll.
Liable for sexual battery found in that civil case.
And so, but Donald Trump has a word, has a message for American women. Don't worry, I'm coming.
Sadly, women are poorer than they were 4 years ago, much poorer, are less healthy than they were 4 years ago, are less safe on the streets than they were 4 years ago, are paying much higher prices for groceries and everything else than they were 4 years ago, are more stressed and depressed and unhappy than they were 4 years ago, and are less optimistic and confident in the future than they were 4 years ago. I believe that. I will fix all of that and fast, and at long last, this nation and national nightmare will end. It will end. We've got to end
did a little
this
rhyme
national nightmare. Because I am your protector. I want to be your protector. As president, I have to be your protector. I hope you don't make too much of it. I hope the fake news doesn't go, oh, he wants to be their protector. Well, I am. As president, I have to be your protector. I will make you safe at the border, on the sidewalks of your now violent cities, in the suburbs where you are under migrant criminal siege, and with our military protecting you from foreign enemies, of which we have many today because of the incompetent leadership that we have. You will no longer be abandoned, lonely, or scared.
Whoa.
You will no longer be in danger. You're not going to be in danger any longer.
In danger.
You will no longer have anxiety from all of the problems our country has today. You will be protected, and I will be your protector. Women. Women will be happy, healthy, confident, and free.
Yes.
You will no longer be thinking about abortion. That's all they talk about.
No.
Because you've done something that nobody else could have done. It is now where it always had to be, with the states and a vote of the people.
Yeah, I am largely speechless. You have nothing to worry about. I will slowly place my hand over your mouth and make it impossible for you to breathe.
Just close your eyes.
Close your eyes, and as life slowly escapes you, you won't have to worry about anything.
It'll be almost like Jim Jordan hasn't put somebody in the doctor's room with you.
He's giving.
Finally have comfort. No more anxiety.
He's giving
no
the
worries.
the DMT pitch, right? For women, like that, the hormone that gets released when you die. That's what Joe Rogan says is the transformative experience. Or it's like under his presidency, women, you're all gonna get frostbite all over your body, but it'll hurt for a while, but it gets warm the longer it goes on.
Total numbness.
Yeah. You won't be thinking about abortion. He's just like trying to hypnotize the audience. like the big issue that's hurting me with women. If I get elected, you're not even going to be thinking about it.
Every time you think of abortion, you will drink a seltzer. And then the abortion feeling will go away. You know what's amazing though about this? This was written. Like,
I know.
like I don't know if it was Stephen Miller who wrote this, but somebody
Conway.
wrote this.
It doesn't sound like Miller because it sounds like he's literally acting as a messianic Jesus figure. That I will freedom from want, freedom from pain, freedom from anything that's making your life more difficult. I mean, he's just leaning into his cult leader thing with and applying it to women.
It also feels like to me, at one point he goes, women are anxious, you're tired, you're worried. It literally
snappy.
reads like he's like copy pasted some focus group test,
Right?
Or like some some result. I'm telling it's true. And then he says like, it's true. I think that's true.
Yeah.
He's reading it off.
Gosh.
Oh boy.
Look, I was going to vote for Kamala Harris, but now Trump is saying that he's going to solve everything in my life and won't want for anything. He's going to solve my menstrual cramps. I'm so excited for Trump to solve
all go away.
PMS.
A little bit later in the program, we're going to be talking to Aaron Kleinman. And in just moments, we'll talk about what's happening in terms of Israel's insistence on killing more people this time in Lebanon. But first, some words from our sponsors. I want you to take a moment, forget everything you know about fasting. Everything's going to be fine. Don't think about anything. Forget everything you know about fasting. Prolon by L Nutra is the only patented fasting mimicking diet that combines the benefit of prolonged fasting with a science-backed nutrition plan so you can hit both your health and weight loss goals without actually having to try and give up all food. Introducing Prolon, it's a revolutionary plant-based nutrition program that nourishes the body while making cells believe they're fasting. It was researched and developed for decades at the University of Southern California Longevity Institute and backed by leading U.S. medical centers. Prolon helps promote healthy blood sugar, it helps support cardiovascular health, and it helps reduce abdominal fat. But Prolon is not a diet. Prolon is science. It is science based on Nobel Prize-winning discoveries in medicine. And this all starts with Prolon's 5-day program. Snacks, soups, beverages, all designed to keep your body in a fasting state, even though you're eating. It's unlike anything you've ever experienced. I did this now, I guess it was back in February.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought I was going to be a mess. And it's not like, you're not eating a full amount, but you're eating. I was fine. And I felt great. And the whole idea behind this that I'm interested in is really around the longevity, because over the course of 5 days, your cells go into different sort of states of being in the way that they act. Like one stage is ketosis, but then you get past that where there's some cellular regeneration, at least according to this Nobel Prize winning research. But it wasn't the easiest thing I've ever done, but it was extremely much easier than I had anticipated. And it got hard one day when I lost one of my little chocolate crisps. And then I was upset because I was thinking about that for like half a day and it wasn't there. I don't know what happened. I think
stick to
Saul
the
ate
program.
it. Yes, but it's very easy to follow. They give you 5 different boxes for each day. And it's no wonder why thousands of doctors now recommend Prolon to help support healthy blood sugar and cardiovascular health. Right now, Prolon is offering Majority Report listeners 15% off their 5-day nutrition program. Go to prolonlife.com/majority. That's PROLON life.com/majority for this special offer. We'll put it in the podcast and YouTube description. And I mentioned up front that the California Attorney General is suing Exxon because they were promoting basically the myth that single-use plastics are easily recyclable. And they're not. And we know this because there are, islands the size of Manhattan in in the Pacific Ocean full of plastic. We know that there's plastic literally in our bodies now. Those detergent pods that we use wrapped in plastic. So when that film sort of breaks down, doesn't break down completely, it becomes, tiny, tiny, tiny. It ends up in our oceans, ends up in our rivers, ends up on our soil, and in us. Blue Land is on a mission to eliminate single-use plastic by reinventing cleaning essentials to be better for you and the planet with the same powerful clean you're used to. Blue Land uses no single-use plastic in any component. Their bottles, their tablets, their wrappers, their shipping, none of it. Their tablet packaging is fully compostable. Blue Land products are effective and affordable. Their dishwasher tablets, they don't come in plastic. They got a beautiful little blue tin. I guess it never really occurred to me that it's Blue Land. Yeah, it's a cute little tin. But what it does, basically, that's where your tablets are. You put them in. They do a great job on your dishwasher. You don't even need that rinse aid. And you can get even more savings by buying refills in bulk or setting up the subscription. Their subscriptions are customizable and convenient. You never run out of the most used products. I've got 3 bottles that I use over and over again: a yellow bottle, a blue bottle, a red bottle, from Blue Land. One is for all purpose, one is for bathroom, and one is for windows. And all you do, take a tablet, drop it in, pour water in, shake, boom, you're done. The tablets take up no room, and it's great. Blue Land's trusted in over 1 million homes, including mine. Blue Land has a special offer for listeners right now. Get 15% off your first order by going to blueland.com/majority. You don't want to miss this. Blueland.com/majority, 15% off. That's blueland.com/majority to get 15% off. And honestly, load up with that 15% discount, and you won't have to buy cleaning stuff for a long time. Fart Wayne says, size of Manhattan, isn't it twice the size of Texas? It could be. It's huge.
Jesus.
All right, let's go to this. I mean, I imagine most people are aware of this, but yesterday, Israeli strikes in Lebanon, I should say, killed more than 490 people. This includes more than 90 women and children. This, according to Lebanese authorities, it is the most deadly barrage since the 2006 Israel-Hezbollah war. This attack has raised Netanyahu's favorability ratings in Israel. And, I mean, this is part of the agenda, of course.
And that's also why just Biden's policy of letting Israel handle its affairs is not, I mean, for so many reasons. But even if you want to go by Washington groupthink in that regard, there's no way for this to change unless there is pressure from the outside, because as we have now seen, Israeli society is extremely radicalized, and especially the people that are still there. It hasn't been reported that much because Israel doesn't want it out there, but hundreds of thousands of Israelis who have dual citizenship have left, and the economy is in quite dire straits. So, like, he's clinging. It's a very radicalized militaristic society, and he's clinging on to power and solidifying his position with those who remain.
And, for those who say, Israel can do what it wants to do, I mean, that's all well and good, but let's be clear. We just sent more troops into the region. We have 40,000 troops there. We have multiple naval vessels off the coast of, at this point, certainly within the Mediterranean. And we're getting sucked into this. The USS Harry Truman left port in Virginia yesterday, accompanied by 2 destroyers and a cruiser that was previously scheduled for deployment in the Mediterranean. That will be 2 carriers in the Middle East if the USS Abraham Lincoln in the Gulf of Oman stays on station. The USS Theodore Roosevelt carrier strike group left the Middle East this month, headed to the Pacific after its deployment was extended in order to monitor events in the region. We could easily get dragged into this. And there just doesn't seem to be any, and you can go back and look at the news reports. I mean, back in January of this year, Biden was saying, I will not tolerate a 1-year war into Gaza. And here we are, just days away from it being 1 year. And so either Biden completely feckless, the United States completely feckless, or didn't really mean what he said. Because
there's a third option, but yeah, I mean, it's that he's also losing grip on like what his policies even are. I mean,
if that's the case, I would hope, certainly we know that within the administration, there are other voices who see this as a complete dead end. I mean, Lloyd Austin was on record in December saying, you can win this battle, but you'll lose the war. And so in the event that Biden had no idea what was going on, I would imagine somebody else.
I'm not going that far. I'm just saying basically he's retreated into this as he gets older and he's declining, this like reflexive Zionism where there's not much thought as an overall plan as opposed versus just like this archaic foreign policy of forming alliances with our and this adversarial, one world order attempt, or not one world order, I should say, but the United States being the unipower that he's trying to cement through alliances as opposed to trying to build broader peace in the region.
Maybe. I just think that he was lying in January.
That's
I think he was just lying
true.
in January. I think the bottom line, it was like, I can say this and hope that it will end. But when I say the part of I will not tolerate, what I really mean is I will actually tolerate. But
it
I'm
feels
good
to pretend
push
for a while.
Doesn't come to shove.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Meanwhile, there also Israel is continuing to bomb Gaza. In Lebanon, it's a part of a greater frankly terror campaign. And by this, I'm of course quoting a bunch of hippies who say that Israel using pagers as a weapon, radios as a weapon, is a terror instrument. And by hippies, what I mean is Leon Panetta, I believe, the guy who spoke on, what was it, the third or fourth night of the DNC in prime time, former CIA chief, former Defense Department chief. This is what he had to say on Sunday on which show was this? One of the Talking Head shows.
Step too far. The United Nations.
We can. This is good. Good morning.
Label the operation a violation.
Sorry, one sec.
Matt has his speed on like 15 times speed.
He's refreshing. We've got it down. Here he is.
We saw this past week, killing dozens and injuring thousands, including children, some viewed as a deception one step too far. The United Nations labeled the operation a violation of international law, and it's raised some eyebrows here at home, too.
The ability to be able to place an explosive in technology that is very prevalent these days and turn it into a war of terror, really, a war of terror. This is something new.
Is it terrorism?
I don't think there's any question that it's a form of terrorism.
Former Defense Secretary and former Director of the CIA, Leon Panetta.
I just want to like sit with that for a moment. I don't think there's any question that it's a form of terrorism. I mean, we don't know what percentage of those people who have the pagers were Hezbollah. We don't know. I mean, it's reasonable to assume that a significant percentage of them were. We also know that at least 9 children were killed. We also know that thousands were injured. And we also know that these are not like one targeted killing. This creates terror amongst the citizenry.
That's what the aim was. I mean, let's be like, if Hezbollah set off a bunch of synchronized bombs that were implanted in people's cell phones in Israel at the same time, would the New York Times call it a display of, quote, technical might, as we covered last week? Or would they call it terrorism, like Leon Panetta is accurately describing?
And let's be clear. I mean, if you're over the age of 18, the odds of you, and you're Israeli, the odds of you either being in the military or being in the military reserves are extraordinarily high, particularly, extraordinarily high. I don't know what percentage, 75, 80%. I mean, there's a significant number of ultra Orthodox who are exempt from military service. But would that mean that it's no longer terrorism? I mean, this is, it's absurd. It's absurd to think otherwise. And the idea is, of course, no one would be walking around going like, that was really clever. That was really clever. You know what? I mean, would people run around going like, it was super clever the way that they hijacked those planes and drove them into the Twin Towers? That was clever too. I mean, it's just absurd.
Bill Maher got
it's courageous.
Remember when Bill Maher said that about the 9/11?
He said it was courageous.
Courageous.
He said they weren't cowards. And then he ended up getting canceled.
Yeah.
But we had Derek Davison. We have Derek Davison on Left Reckoning tonight. He talked, and I hadn't heard this, that Israel might have set them off because they were discovered, and it's like, well, we're not going to give them time to change them off, which is like, if there was a full war, and I mean, in Joe Biden's fantasy, it was instigated by Hezbollah, that would be a great thing to do right at the start of that war. But when you just do it out of nowhere like this, where there's not actual, well, I mean, there's a lot of kinetic activity going on, but it is just a terrorist attack. Yeah.
Killed hundreds of people, including children.
Yep.
Yeah, it's
Precise.
just and what? So deadliest since 2006, as you mentioned. Also, as people know, Hezbollah not involved. In October 7th, Hezbollah has been launching rockets at Israel, as they sometimes do. But we have this Iron Dome system that is protecting Israel, right? Not the same as you can see in Lebanon, because there's 500 dead right now after this latest barrage of extreme bombing. But they have been firing rockets because they say we will stop when there is a ceasefire and the genocide ends in Gaza. And that's not happening. And so that's why the hostilities from their end continue, and Israel is trying to provoke them into a broader response to justify an even more bloody war. Because the longer that war goes on, the longer Netanyahu stays in power.
Yep. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to be talking to Aaron Kleinman. He is, of course, the director of research for the States Project at Future Now. And they are looking at, well, we'll let him tell you, but basically, there are 9 states that they are focusing on, both in terms of like the presidential campaign, but also in terms of like the legislature and the governor races there. We will talk to Aaron more about that in just a moment. We'll be right back after this. We are back. Sam Seder, Emma Vigeland on the Majority Report. Joining us now from apparently his basement, Aaron Kleinman, Director of Research for the States Project at Future Now. Aaron, I get the sense that you are, welcome back to the program, of course.
Thank you.
I get the sense that you have been like in wherever you are right now for like months. Have you seen, outside of like the daylight that's streaming through that picture right there behind you,
Oh, it's so
a beautiful
nice
day
outside.
here on the shores of the Gowanus. It's a beautiful day.
There you are.
Just a few little red clouds here. But we've been very busy here trying to figure out what's going on in this election. And you guys might not believe it, but it's actually very close out there.
The election. My understanding is that the election is close. Yes, between Harris and Donald Trump.
You only hear that every second on cable news because it's usually them trying to get you to tune into something next. But it is close as well.
Well, let's talk about some of the other elections on the ballot here, where it's also very close. Now, are you guys familiar with the Washington top 2 primary, for example?
No.
So every August, Washington has a primary election where the top 2 vote getters from every primary advance regardless of party. And every voter in the state gets a ballot mailed to them and they can mail it back in. And they have like 60% turnout or something. And so it ends up actually being very predictable what happens in November. And the results from this August's Washington all-party primary, and it ends up being very predictive, not necessarily of the presidential election, certainly there's a correlation there, but really of kind of the ballot as a whole. And what it's showing is that Washington looks like it may be a little more Democratic than it was in 2020, which is a good sign because, hopefully it moves in line with the rest of the nation. 2022 results, however, showed that Washington was maybe getting more Democratic than a lot of places that shifted red, but also in 2022, the Midwest blue wall states like Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin all shifted blue a little bit. And they have a lot of areas that resemble Washington state politically. If you think about kind of rural Washington state and rural Wisconsin, a lot of similarities. And so that ends up being very predictive. And so we're kind of hoping that it'll be, something that will probably be close, but we're hoping that especially in some of those blue wall states, we can hopefully lock in some gains at the state level. Whereas, in the Sun Belt where you saw a bit more backsliding in 2022, either we can kind of get back to, 2020 results or, maybe even exceed them. So, but again, we're
what do you think
tune out the polls, but if you look at kind of the data on the ground from that, for example, it's just a very close race. And we're trying to get out there the message that, our candidates really support you and your situation. So, yeah.
So Washington State, if I understand you, Washington State is somewhat predictive of how this top 2 candidates election is somewhat predictive of how Democratic turnout and enthusiasm is trending in some of the more Rust Belt states, the ones that are sort of like latitudinally, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, what accounts for like the Sun Belt states sort of backsliding a little bit? And is it a function of was there COVID migration?
I don't think it's that necessarily. I think the Sun Belt 2022 backsliding a little bit came from, I think, partially just the lower propensity voters there maybe are a little more Democratic. But also, if you look at Arizona, for example, it was a good year overall in 2022 in Arizona, but we didn't flip the state legislature. And part of the reason why was that Republicans actually turned out at a higher rate in Arizona in 2022 than in 2020. But it's just that or relative to Democrats than 2020, but there were so many just extreme right-wing candidates like Blake Masters and Carrie Lake that independent voters and some Republicans ended up voting for Democrats in those high-profile races. The issue is that the state legislature is still run by Republicans, it's still passing all these insane laws. They almost had the territorial abortion ban stand there, for example. It's because the voters there didn't really understand that on the ballot you have Republicans running for state office that are just as extreme as the ones that you see at the statewide level. So you have, plenty of Carrie Lakes running for state legislature, but you need to get resources to those candidates to let people know, hey, this person, Cory McGarr, Rachel Jones is actually just as extreme as this person, maybe even more so. They think January 6th was a false flag. They want to ban all abortion. They don't believe in global warming. They believe in polluting your water. They believe in giving our state's water to the Saudis. And so, again, it's really important that, state candidates can get the message out just how extreme these far-right candidates are.
Well, so is abortion not having the salience that people thought in the Sun Belt in terms of how the polling is shaking out, both in Nevada and in Arizona?
Well, in Arizona, they actually have on the ballot a referendum to enshrine it. But also, if it is enshrined in the state constitution, then voters may think, oh, it's, I can vote Republican for other stuff because they won't be able to touch it if it's in the state constitution. So you need to let them know, it's not just abortion. Obviously it is a very important driving issue. And in states like, for example, Pennsylvania or Wisconsin, where, there have been legislative efforts to curtail it, it still can be a very animating issue. But you have to, it can't just be that. And if you look at kind of polling as a whole, which again, don't fixate on just one poll, but if you look at polling as a whole, it seems like voters by and large like Democrats more, but they don't necessarily trust them more on economic issues. And the next 6 weeks will be really critical for trying to get them to trust everywhere on the ballot on those pocketbook issues. Because, again, if you look at what we were able to achieve in 2022 after flipping Michigan and Minnesota, you look at kind of not just protecting abortion rights, but it was also, providing more benefits for, people, low income and seniors. It was, having these huge climate bills that are going to allow a lot more climate production, not just like protecting the environment, but also providing good jobs in those states for, clean energy projects. You look at providing free school lunches and leave, which, by the way, can really help someone in a tight spot financially. All of these things where, we're looking out for you, voters need to hear about that. And they need to understand the power of, if you elect a Democratic state legislature, they can really deliver for you and make it so that, you're in a more comfortable position, financially, not just though. And again, abortion also is, in many ways, I think sometimes when we think about, is it, a pocketbook issue, so to speak? I think for a lot of people, abortion is, because pocketbook can also be shorthand for something that is going to affect me shortly, as opposed to something that's kind of like more ideological out in the ether. And so for a lot of voters, abortion is, belongs in the bucket of things that we normally call a pocketbook, just because it's something that can be very relevant to your life very quickly.
How much is Tim Walz, if you have a sense of this, maybe you don't, going out there and touting his record in Minnesota? Because this is a perfect example. Minnesota, one vote, I should say one Senate seat, was it, or a House seat?
One Senate seat
in Minnesota basically opens the floodgates to free lunch and to paid leave, like you say, and like a whole host of very material of material benefits, of progressive material benefits. At the same time, you've got Harris not necessarily going out there and touting this range of stuff. Doesn't seem to want to doesn't seem to want to emphasize policy at all in the context of this race. I personally think, as an electoral matter, that might be a positive. In the years past, certainly Republicans have not been running on policy per se, other than don't like trans people, don't like gay people, don't like immigrants. I don't know if that's policy per se, but how much latitude does Tim Walz have to go into Arizona, to go into North Carolina, say Nevada, and say, look, one vote can make all the difference in the world. Look what we did in Minnesota.
Yeah. And so, when it comes to kind of talking about issues, I think, again, voters can only hold so many things in their minds at once. And so, campaigns pick and choose what they're trying to emphasize. And I think, especially at the state level, we're really trying to, get candidates to emphasize, voting for these candidates at the state level is going to deliver, those things that you just mentioned about Tim Walz's record. And so I think, certainly having him out there is an example of what a state government can do to make, a state a better place to live. Because, if you look at Minnesota, it's not just, you can rattle off all the stats you want about, the policies he's passed, but Minnesota just, it's becoming a better place to live. It's got, better schools for your kids, easier to get ready for them in the morning because you don't have to make a lunch. Just cleaner air, cleaner water that you breathe and drink. It's a good vibe in Minnesota. And you can get good vibes in your place.
How much that free lunch is.
It's not just an economic issue.
It's not just an economic issue. It is a big difference.
It is a quality of life issue. Again, abortion is a quality of life issue. And so I think if you're running on quality of life issues, that's how you win. And so, that's kind of what these candidates need to do. And by the way, the Harris-Walz campaign, they've raised more than $500 million since she became the de facto nominee. If you look at a state like, for example, Wisconsin, right next to Minnesota, which is trying to get on Minnesota's level because they have fair maps for the first time in decades. The candidates there, they are going to need to raise like a 1/10 of a percentage point of what she's just raised in the past 2 months to close their budget gaps, and that's why we are here at the States Project to try to help them do that.
Yeah, I was going to say, how do you guys, what is the process that you go through, right? I mean, I presume there's a lot of races where Democrats are challenging Republicans that could swing maybe or edify control over the state government. Do you guys have some type of algorithm where it's okay, this person has a 75% chance of unseating this Republican, and all we need in this state are 2 seats. And so this is where we're going to dedicate our research. How do you guys decide who you're going to fund? I assume it's targeted, not sort of broad. There has to be a reason why you're stuck wherever it is you're stuck in. I know you just put up that picture, but but you're in there. What numbers are you crunching?
It's electoral demographic information mostly, and public and non-public, some proprietary data. And you're right, we do have an algorithm that kind of spits out all sorts of kind of likelihoods, because I think it's good. I don't want to be all Nate Silver here talking about the river and the village, because I think that's kind of a little out there.
I don't even know what that means.
Oh man. Oh. You should consider yourself one of the lucky ones, Sam. But basically, you want to think about in terms of percentage likelihoods of something occurring and what you can do to impact that. And so, I think about what we can do. As a small group, not we're not like Mike Bloomberg or something with billions at our disposal. And so it's where can we improve the odds the most? And state legislatures are where when we go out to grassroots donors, it's, hey, I'm glad that the Harris-Walz campaign, raised more than $500 million. But also, if you're looking for a place to spend like $20 or $100 or even $1,000, it goes so much further at the state level where they just need fewer resources. But yes, so we look at the electoral demographic information, we kind of assign likelihoods, and then we look at candidates where they're willing to use evidence-based tactics to improve vote shares and then improve lives, and you can have outcomes like you did in Minnesota and Michigan over the last 2 years, where you can pass laws that make things better for a lot of people and improve the quality of life in your state, because that's what politics is about. It's all about. And then you do it again in 2 years, and you keep doing it until hopefully you make less of a difference because everything's so great, and I can go on to do the next thing, maybe see the sun.
So I'm looking at, for instance, Arizona. I'm clicking on statesproject.org. You've got 9 states at the top of that page, and I click on Arizona. I can see right there in the state house, Republicans have a 2-seat majority. In the Senate, it is a 2-seat majority. So do you guys target 3 state house races and 3 Senate races as the best chances of flipping those seats? Or how do you target the spend?
Yeah, I mean, it can be that small, though. The playing field there is bigger. And again, you want to look at, if there's a race where there's kind of between a 20 and 80% likelihood of it going to one party or the other, then that's something where you get very interested. And so usually we focus, and if you go to our Give Smart page at statesproject.org, you can kind of see the candidates running in those seats where either party could feasibly win. And if you again, sending those candidates resources can help them get the word out about, really the stakes of their election, so that people, in their district in like suburban Phoenix or suburban Tucson, talking about, hey, your state representative or state senator voted for a territorial abortion ban, and they're voting to send your they're going to give the Saudis control over water, so that your water bills are a lot higher. They're voting to make it so that your kids' schools are underfunded. And so, because again, it's hard for people to kind of think about also all the different offices that they have. The presidential dominates everything, and just one little thing in a voter's head, like, oh, by the way, the Republican in your state legislature is not looking out for you. It's really important to just get that little thought in there that voters had, so they can kind of vote for a better state legislature and improve the quality of life of everyone in their state.
What are the top prospects? Like, where are you guys? Like, if I mean, obviously the Pledge Smart, what is it called? The
Give Smart.
The Give Smart is the sort of like, I guess, the peak of the peak, and people could check that out. But give us a preview, like where, if I want my dollar to have the most likely chance of changing turning the tide in a state, where would I give? And then
right now,
number 2 and number 3.
Right now, Wisconsin. Wisconsin, because actually candidates in Wisconsin are facing kind of a Friday deadline around their programs to make sure that they're fully funded. And if they're not fully funded, they have to cut program, and it'll decrease the likelihood of them winning. So I'd say whatever you want to give, like I would say the next 3 days are really critical for Wisconsin. By the way, Wisconsin, there's a huge gap right now in the state legislature, in the Assembly and the Senate. But the reason why we're there is because the state Supreme Court required the state legislature to redraw the maps, and they're fair, and either party could win them, a majority on them now. And especially in the state assembly right now, because the Senate, not all the seats are up every cycle. So in the state assembly, we have 8 candidates there that we've really kind of singled out. Like, this is where you can make the biggest difference right now. And so I would check those candidates out. Beyond Wisconsin, we're trying to defend the majority in Michigan. And again, that's another state where you literally by one seat, like a few hundred votes in a single district in suburban Detroit, are the difference there between them having all these great new laws and this improved quality of life and them not having that. And so Michigan is another really great state to focus on. Arizona, as you mentioned before, you have a Democratic governor. If you can get a Democratic legislature there, you can undo decades of horrible laws passed by Republicans there, because Democrats haven't controlled the state legislature there since the 60s.
Wow.
Yeah. And again, we're just 2 seats away in both chambers. And, this could be the year, but again, they need, it's very crowded political market in Arizona right now. So they need to get the word out. And then also, if you think about like super majorities, you have Nevada, where you have a right-wing governor, but Democrats have the chance at winning supermajorities in both chambers, so they could pass laws. Like, for example, he vetoed a law protecting contraception, and so in Nevada, you could pass a law protecting contraception. And similarly, a state that's been in the news a bit, North Carolina. I don't know if you saw their Republican gubernatorial candidates' comments on the Nude Africa posting forum.
I have. I mean, I'm on Nude Africa posting forum quite a bit, so I've run into a lot of.
So you knew.
Well, yeah. Sam knew.
I didn't know he was.
He didn't know Mini Soldier.
Governor.
He didn't know Mini Soldier was that Mark Robinson.
No, I just knew him as Mini Soldier. He was one of the
guys. You didn't check out the off-topic forum. Oh, I guess as much.
There was another forum. Yeah.
But anyway, in North Carolina, you have right-wing candidates running for the state house there. They are not saying, they're not distancing themselves. They're not saying this guy shouldn't be the governor. And by the way, in North Carolina, even if Stein does get elected, which he increasingly looks like he will, if you have a right-wing supermajority in the state house, and they can still pass horrible laws over his veto. So,
and in North Carolina, they've passed bills similarly in Wisconsin, where they have really disempowered the governor.
Yeah.
When they're a Democrat, essentially.
Yes, exactly.
And what is the current status of like North Carolina's makeup? The Republicans have, I believe, a supermajority there. Or at least
they do. We actually, in the 2022 elections, we actually prevented one by a single seat, but Republicans basically got a Democrat who was. I don't want to say anything that will get me in trouble.
Oh,
so
right. I remember that story. Yes.
They got her to switch parties.
Switched parties, yes.
And they were able to pass all these horrible laws over the Roy Cooper's veto. And so
my question is like, what are the stakes of Robinson down ballot? Because, someone who's sane might say, okay, Republicans should disavow him. They're distancing themselves from him, but they're not. A lot of them are not retracting their endorsement, Trump most notably. That's because they're worried about depressing turnout broadly for Republicans around the state. So, like, is there a chance Democrats make? What's the range of outcomes really for the Democrats on the state level in North Carolina?
Obviously the governor's race is within grasp. There are plenty of other elections on the ballot. But, it can be hard to say. Like if you look at, the most recent example was of a candidate like this is kind of like Doug Mastriano in Pennsylvania. In 2022, where also we were able to flip the state house that year in spite of nobody thinking we could do it. We are like the only major group to really we spent significant efforts in there, but in Pennsylvania, and we're going to try to defend that one seat majority there as well this year. So it is possible, but also it can be hard to predict, because you also might have voters who are like, I'm going to be, I'm independent minded. I'm going to vote against Mark Robinson, but I'm also going to vote for every other Republican on my ballot.
Voting against Robinson scratches an itch that they.
So it can be hard to predict, but it's important to get into people's minds. It's not just Mark Robinson. He's a symptom of a larger problem there, where they're elevating these far right candidates. They have the right in this country has a system where they're just elevating unfit, out of the mainstream, weird candidates to offices that are really important to your life. And the only way to stop them from doing that is to make them lose. And so vote against those far right candidates, who maybe are not as far out there as him, but are part of the same system that elevates him, and don't want to knock that system that elevates him.
All right. Well, I'm going to make a pitch for people to donate to you guys, because I think what you do is really
well, thank you.
It's huge. Particularly in the context of like when we have like a federal Supreme Court that is going to be with us probably for an extended period of time. It's going to, has already rolled back one massive individual right that people have had for over 51 years. But how would you like, and I know this is sort of outside your portfolio, but how would you campaign, generically speaking, right? You got Mark Robinson at the top of the ticket. Would it make sense to sort of say, like, to be for the message to be, Mark Robinson has made all the Republicans basically stay home, like basically say, like, this election's over. Mark Robinson's toast. Nobody wants to come out, like, and limit the range of Republican voters that come out to vote in general? Or do you tie them in and say, like, they support Mark Robinson? Do you like that type of thing, or what?
I think it's, again, you have to tie Mark Robinson to a broader movement that these candidates are a part of. And, Mark Robinson didn't become the nominee of the Republican Party in North Carolina by accident. What they do is they are a far-right organization that selects candidates that share their far-right views, and Mark Robinson is one of them. And you know what? He got found out because maybe his OPSEC wasn't great. But if you look at what he supports and what he's voting for, a lot of candidates that aren't posting on the Nude Africa forum still believe the same things as him. You've seen in excruciating detail the horrible things that he thinks. And these candidates are very reluctant to distance themselves from that. And it's because it's all part of the same movement that believes a set of terrible things that's far outside the mainstream. So just vote the weirdos out. Vote the weirdos out.
I mean, on some level, that's what I had hoped we would have seen Democrats do with Donald Trump in the past 3 cycles, right? Like make Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell own Donald Trump instead of sort of like saying they're the reasonable ones and Donald Trump is the weird one. Like you're basically going in and saying, you know, instead of saying soda's bad for you, they're saying like Pepsi is really will rot your teeth, but Coca-Cola can be, you know, a good breakfast drink or something without maligning those.
I mean, I think if you just look at, you know, what, like, I think a common thing of all of our candidates that, you know, we try to support is they all kind of support, you know, I see a lot because I look at all of them and I see a common thread of like civic virtue of people who are really involved in their communities, people who care about their neighbors, you know, and that's like these basic values of decency that are just so far removed from a right-wing movement that's really dominated by the poster set, people that aren't really, you know, they don't really care about the people around them because what they really care about is like impressing people online. Which I have spent the past few decades trying to impress people online, so I can't knock that. But also, I'm not running for office, and so. But yeah, on some decaying social networks. But I think that, you know, and again, but also, I can try to use that to let people like, hey, by the way, these candidates who are not actually, you won't really come across them because they're not like good posters. They're busy like trying to make their communities better. They need help getting the word out to everyone else in their communities that they're the one on the ballot that's going to look out for them, while their opponent is, you know, awash in Uline money or DeVos money or Jeff Yass money.
All right. Well, folks, you can help beat all of these candidates who are on Nude Scots Irish, I think is probably. Don't
go to that. Go to statesproject.org. Check out the Give Smart program. Again, the next 3 days are really critical to Wisconsin. So please, if you have some extra money burning a hole in your pocket that you're looking to spend to make a difference, Wisconsin, please send it. Again, we don't take a dime from the Give Smart program. It goes direct to the candidates. They can spend money on program, letting people in their communities know the stakes of this election.
Not a single penny goes into any interior decorating or chair purchases. I think that's pretty clear.
I got to get all my books from the library. I can't impress people with, you know, what's behind me because I got to return them in 21 days.
I think I promised in the past to get you a new chair. I'm really going to do that. I'm really going to get you a new chair. Because I forgot how much your chair squeaks. I don't know how that doesn't drive you crazy over the course.
Maybe just give me some like grease.
15. Yeah, we could start. We could start with some WD-40. Right. Aaron Kleinman, we will put links to the Give Smart campaign at the States Project at Future Now. We'll link to all of that stuff. I can't encourage people enough. We have had Aaron on for, I don't know, probably like half a dozen years at this point.
Yeah. Wow.
And we have seen the implications in places like Minnesota and in places like Pennsylvania and in places like Michigan to the work that they do there. So can't encourage you enough. If you got a couple of bucks, it doesn't take much for these state senators to be like, whoa, what a huge boon. Aaron Kleinman, as always, thanks so much for your time today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, the whole Majority Report team. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks,
All
Aaron.
right, folks.
All right.
I'm gonna go over to his house with some WD-40, and that's where we're gonna start with that. And then if that doesn't work, I'm gonna buy him a new chair. I don't care. I'll give him my kid's chair. I thought it was the
dog. I thought it was the dog.
No, every time he's been on, it's like you can hear the squeaking chair. And we should also say, I mean, I don't want to tell stories, but when Aaron first came on, he didn't even have that picture up behind him. And we were like, dude, what How
He's
many
like, I
hours have you
gotta-
been? Are you getting out at all? Are you seeing any sunlight?
Yeah.
And so he put the picture up, but like this is, they are at that outfit, and particularly Aaron, but all of them, but they're just work. They're just crazy in the amount of time they work in and break down these numbers and figure out, like, dollar for dollar, what is going to be the best use of a dollar. Where can we send this to create the greatest amount of change? Really impressive what they do there.
Yeah, not spending it on the set.
They are not spending it on the set. It is, if all the money goes into the work, none of the presentation.
I think he's in a storage container that they're illegally renting out.
Honestly, like, I just have a vision of like that, of him being in like like some type of container where it's like, it's, it's damp. There's like a drywall that's falling apart, and he's just sitting in there like it's like a Mr. Robot.
You can hear the train go past. It's like an old MTA room.
Right.
Yes, and the whole place shakes. Folks, let's pass on the call for members today. If you want to donate something to support something, go over to the link that we'll put in the podcast and YouTube descriptions for the States Project and for the Give Smart program. Make a difference in Wisconsin, make a difference in Arizona, maintain the changes that have been in Michigan. And also know that, like, every dollar that a state senator spends and can bring out one more voter. And a lot of it is just, is persuasion, but some of it is also get out the vote. They vote up ticket as well. Mm-hmm. So that makes a big difference. So check that out. Also, justcoffee.coop, fair trade coffee, tea, or fair trade coffee or hot chocolate. You can buy the MR blend. Look at that.
That's what I'm having today. That's what I'm having today in this thermos here.
Good stuff. Very good stuff. But they also have some really good single origin coffees and some bitter blends called WTF. I'm not going to get into that. But check it out. Justcoffee.coop. Great source of coffee. They really take care of their growers. Emma, ESVN.
Yesterday, Bradley and I went through every game, save for the Monday night doubleheader last night, both of which, one of them was incredible just to see I think Jaden Daniels is going to win Rookie of the Year. And then we broke down just all of the games over the weekend, youtube.com/ESPN show. Giants finally won, so I was happy this week.
And Left Reckoning tonight, 7 o'clock Eastern. We got Derek Davison of the Foreign Exchanges newsletter and American Prestige talking about the Middle East. So check that out tonight. We'll also probably be talking about Talib. Patreon.com/Left Reckoning.
Yeah, in the fun half, we're going to go over this sort of like anatomy of a smear. CNN always seems to jump on these stories, crazily enough, that attempt to smear squad members and people basically who care about, who perceive Palestinians to be human beings.
Remember when the travel ban happened and Jake Tapper thought that was a good time to go after Keith Ellison for Louis Farrakhan?
They have they're quite Zionist in terms of like their tilt, but also and militaristic, but also obsessed with both sidesing. So you'll see in this Rashida Tlaib segment that it's the smears against her are within the context of them trying to say, here's extremism on this side, and then here's this completely made up extremism on the other side. So.
Exactly. All right, quick break. We'll take your IMs if you remember, and we will get to some phone calls. We'll do our best. I try. All right, we'll see you in the fun half. 3 months from now, 6 months from now, 9 months from now. And I don't think it's going to be the same as it looks like in 6 months from now. And I don't know if it's necessarily going to be better 6 months from now than it is 3 months from now. But I think around 18 months out, we're going to look back and go like, wow. What? What is that going on? It's nuts. Wait a second. Hold on for a second.
The Majority Report.
Emma, welcome to the program.
Hey.
Matt.
What is up, everyone?
Nomi Key.
You did it. Let's go, Brandon.
Let's go, Brandon.
Bradley, you want to say hello?
Sorry to disappoint everyone. I'm just a random guy.
It's all the boys today.
Fundamentally false.
No, I'm sorry. Women's
Stop talking for a second. Now let me finish.
Where is this coming from, dude?
But dude, you want to smoke this 7A?
Yes.
Hi, me? Is this?
Yes.
Is this me?
Is it me?
It is you.
Is this me? Hello? Is this me?
I think it is you. Who is you? No sound. Every single freaking day. What's on your mind?
Sports. We can discuss free markets and we can discuss capitalism.
I'm gonna go throw up.
Who libertarians? They're so stupid though. Common sense says, of course.
gobbledygook.
We fucking nailed him.
So what's 79 plus 21?
Challenge Matt.
I'm positively quivering.
I believe 96, I want to say.
857-210-35 501 1 half 3 8s
9/11, for instance.
$3,400, $1,900.
5 4 $3 trillion sold. It's a zero-sum game.
Actually, you're making me think less of it.
But let me say this. Poop.
You can call it satire. Sam goes, it's satire.
On top of it all, my favorite part about you is just like every day, all day, like everything you do.
Without a doubt. Hey, buddy, we see you. All right, folks.
It's just the week being weeded out, obviously.
Yeah, sun's out, guns out. I don't know.
But you should know.
People just don't like to entertain ideas anymore.
I have a question. Who cares?
Our chat is enabled, folks.
I love it.
I do love that.
Look, gotta jump. Gotta be quick. I gotta jump.
I'm losing it, bro.
2 o'clock. We're already late, and the guy's being a dick. So screw him. Sent to a gulag?
Outrageous.
Like, what is wrong with you?
Love you, bye.
Love you. Bye-bye.
Back.
We are back. Sam Seder, Emma Vigeland on the Majority Report. Let's get into this. So, Rashida Tlaib, as you know, is a congresswoman from Michigan. And let's put up Tlaib's first statement. This was when, in response to the decision by the Michigan's U.S. attorney to prosecute protesters, pro-Palestinian protesters, as opposed to other people. This was on September 13th. So this was like about a week ago. Nessel filed charges against pro-Palestinian protesters at the University of Michigan. And Rashida Tlaib, do you have this, Matt? Can you pop this up?
You mean
the Michigan piece?
Yeah. Okay, so she was interviewed by the Detroit Metro Times, and they asked her a question about what Sam is just describing.
And she said, this is a move that's going to set a precedent, and it's unfortunate that a Democrat made this move. You would expect that from a Republican, but not a Democrat. It's really unfortunate. Later, she went on to say about the protest. It was very inclusive. It was diverse. It was very loving. When I visited, I remember they were talking about the Armenian genocide and what we learned from that. It was very powerful. I wish President Ono, this is the president of the University of Michigan, could see his students as people who just want to save lives, no matter their faith or ethnicity. She goes on to talk about we've had the right to dissent, the right to protest.
This is the part where she criticizes Nessel, the Attorney General of Michigan, who is the first
Pressing
person
charges.
Who is Jewish, and she's the AG in Michigan.
We've done it for climate, the immigrant rights movement, for Black lives, and even around issues of injustice among water shutoffs. But it seems that the Attorney General decided if the issue was Palestine, she was going to treat it differently. And that alone speaks volumes about possible biases within the agency she runs. And that was it. That's what she said in this interview back in September 13th. And apparently, Nessel decided to respond to this criticism once, I guess the interview was released, with the following tweet. You have it, Matt? Here it is. This is a week later. Rashida's religion should not be used in a cartoon to imply that she's a terrorist. It's Islamophobic and wrong. So this is, there was in the Detroit News, there was a cartoon, Rashida Tlaib sitting at a desk.
The National Review.
No. I believe this is the Detroit News, and the National Review promoted it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And so this is local congresswoman, and this is, do you have it, Matt? This is the cartoon. If you don't have it, it's okay. It depicts.
I'm sending it now.
It depicts Tlaib sitting there with a thought bubble that says, "Odd, my pager just exploded." And the National Review, I think, promoted it, but it was, I think it was done for the Detroit Metro News.
That's I assumed it was the National Review because it's so explicitly racist.
Well, they just promoted it,
yeah,
because it was so explicitly racist. But I think it came from the Detroit Metro News, which people were rather upset about, obviously. And so Nessel says
Tlaib was in a period of getting sympathy from people because of that, and Nessel decided, well, I got a gripe.
A week after that, those comments were made, and the day after that racist cartoon came out.
It's Islamophobic and wrong. Just as Rashida should not use my religion to imply I cannot perform my job fairly as Attorney General. It's anti-Semitic and wrong. Now, she does not in any way use Nessel's religion. She doesn't imply that she cannot perform her job fairly as Attorney General. She's picking out that there is obviously, whatever it is, some bias that leads her to prosecute pro-Palestinian protesters as opposed to pro-Black Lives Matter protesters, or pro-clean water protesters, or any number of protests that have taken place in Michigan. For whatever reason, the Attorney General's office decides to prosecute these University of Michigan protesters. I imagine in part to basically intimidate people from doing that again this fall as they return to school. But it's gross, and it should be called out, and it has nothing to do, unless Nessel says it does, with her religion. Like, she's the one who's implying it. Tlaib never referenced Nessel's religion. She didn't even say it was necessarily Nessel's call. She said within the agency.
Potential biases within the agency. You're right. Exactly.
And so it's not even like she is doing everything she can to really avoid it being a question of whatever Nestle's individual biases may be. And certainly she's not even coming close to ascribing those personal biases or institutional biases to anybody's religion. And like what way could you possibly articulate that it's unfair and wrong and weird that Nestle is prosecuting these protesters who were just as peaceful as any other of the numerous other protesters that have taken place in the University of Michigan and other places in Michigan? Like, what other language could you possibly use other than that language to avoid this implication that Nestle projects onto it? And then